Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm back for another episode of Mindset Explosion. We're on season 3, episode number 27. Maybe not as many as I've done in previous years, but we're going at a good pace. So make sure if you want to catch up on some of the other ones I've done, I got some of the videos are out on YouTube, or just go over to one of the podcasts, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can certainly catch up on that. So as soon as if you're watching me live, drop us a wave, drop a low and a comment. All right. If you catch it on a pre-record, just do the same. Hopefully I got a great show for you this evening. All right. I want to talk about how to overcome false emotions that can appear very real. So I guess it's an acronym for fear. This whole fear is false emotions that appear real. So I want to talk about that this evening, how they affect us, how they can affect others, and how others' emotions or fears, however we want to put it. All right, let's keep it with emotions tonight. And I'll kind of skip in and out of emotions and fears and that kind of thing. So just to recap, so we're going to talk about how they affect us, how they affect others, and how other people's emotions, can play on our own and become our own emotions. Amanda Hall has just written, feelings are not fact. And that's so true, because how we feel is kind of based on our experiences, I guess, and just what we're going through at that given time. So do we have false emotions? Do we have false feelings? So if that's what we're feeling, that's what we're feeling, right? But sometimes when I did the interview with Adrian Hales the other week, and he talked about, and I like this idea, is that, we have that gut instinct, we have a feeling in our heart, and we have one in our head. So similar to, where I've talked about the chimp paradox, I guess, in the past. And it's really be able to keep a balance of them and listening to what's going on, because sometimes our heart wants us to do something, or we're feeling something fearful in our stomach. So it's trying to get a balance out of them. So we feel how we feel. So if we're having an emotion that's maybe it's feeling overwhelmed, or we're feeling worried or scared, any of these things, it can start to take control of us. So there's lots of emotions around at the moment, and I'm sure you've seen it all over social media. I'd say it's a lot more extreme than it has been, even when there was Brexit going on. I would say at the moment there's so much, and people are, because we're all dealing with the virus, how it's affected us, and it's going to affect everyone differently. Some people have lost people, others haven't, and then we've got our own other issues, not a fair way of putting it, but we got other things that are going on within our lives at the moment, that we had to deal with anyway. But if we're ill, or if we're sick, we're having to deal with that. And say if I use from the point of view of some of my clients, I can, they're overcoming their own mental health issues on top of what's going on at the moment, and being around other people's emotions. So these can be quite easily absorbed. This week, I don't want to get into that rant that I had earlier in the week, but my patience was tested. It was tested last Sunday because we had a leak at the academy, and we had to sort that out. And it's easy to get sucked into that fear. And if everyone around you is fearful at the same time, you kind of start feeding each other those fears, if that makes sense, right? And then, of course, we had the announcement where, we were led to believe that we'd possibly be opening up on the 6th. And there's just other things then. So thank you, by the way. I had some real nice messages. No, I wasn't deflated. I was just so cross at the whole thing. But that was my anger, that annoyance coming out. And not just for me, for, my clients, other people's clients, people in the same industry as me that had worked so hard. So was it fear? It was an emotion, definitely. But that's what I want to talk to you all tonight about is, even though my patience was tested and I was really annoyed, I was quite angry, it's learning to harness that. See, if I go inward on that, I could start finding all sorts of things. Oh, this isn't right, that's not fair, and what am I going to do now? How am I going to get through this? Then that's when it becomes a problem. So that's when the emotion does become false, because it starts having a negative impact on me or those around me, and and we start feeding off each other. And I think at the moment, like I said, there are so many feelings around at the moment. There are so many mixed emotions, and I'm fully aware that lives have been lost, and there's people that are scared, but we're all scared for our own different things, as well as dealing with everything else that we would have had going on in our lives anyway, if that makes sense. So a false emotion, or emotion that makes us so scared that we can almost freeze, it's the thing that does play on our fears. So false emotions that appear real is come down to our fears. I was looking at my notes. But these are the things that can seriously hold us back. And being in my line of work, I meet so many people from all walks of life, and I always see potential. I always find this potential, and very quickly as well, at some point, we all will start to try and talk ourselves out of something. And that's now where we got a false emotion that's coming in. So whatever it is, a voice in our head or somewhere starts to tell us like how inadequate we are, how we won't be able to do something, how we won't be good enough, how overwhelming this is, how this is all too much, how I've had enough. And they're all the negative communications that we start to say to ourselves. And I've done it, we all do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it becomes wrong is because you got to vent off sometimes. Sometimes you just got to have that little bit of a rant and say some stupid things, and hopefully that's the end of it. Social media is a bit dangerous like that, because as soon as you do it, you touch on someone else's nerve, and before you know it, they're jumping in, and then you're into this weird argument making no sense to anybody, but you want to get your point across. So that's where social media can be a bit dangerous. But also, you can find out those people that are going to support you with something, if that makes sense, or support you with that journey. So the false emotion, it plays on our fears, and people will talk themselves out of doing so many great things. Oh, they're ready on that journey, and we start to make up stuff, and it's the easiest thing to talk yourself out of something. It is such the easiest thing. Easiest thing to give up on something. Martial arts. Obviously, I run a martial arts academy, and there's a couple of other instructors watching, and I'm sure you agree. It's like how many times people have talked themselves out of going on to a black belt or becoming a fighter or whatever it is that they're doing on there. It's like this voice kicks in. I'm not good enough. I wouldn't be able to do that. That's what other people do. Whereas you're already kind of on a path or something. So if we're not careful, we can seriously talk ourselves out of doing something great and something we was already on the road to, something that we would achieve so much on. And we need to feel safe. So that's why we start talking ourselves out of something, right? We need to feel safe. That's a human trait. We want to feel comfortable. We want to be able to provide. And we just want to feel safe. So if I talk myself out of it, this new thing I got to do, or making a life change, even at the moment, I'll come on to it in a bit, but there's been so many changes this year. So we are all well and truly out of our comfort zone. And I would say that's having a big impact on how everyone is feeling at the moment. But, we will talk ourselves out of that hard thing, and we'll make up some weird, wonderful excuses for it to make us, my instructors used to say, you do it to make yourself feel warm and fuzzy because you want that little mummy hug. And it's true, right? We want that warm feeling. We want that feeling of feeling a bit scared or nervous or whatever to go away. Now, there's lots of things we can't control. All right. So things that have happened this week, say from my perspective, totally outside my control. I suppose I could have controlled going up to the roof to check if it might have leaked, but we wasn't expecting that. I could have maybe not been so hopeful on being able to open when it was going to open, but I went and followed the crowd. But so we can come at all those things. But how I deal with it, yes. So in that sense, had a little rant. Also had a laugh with my instructors about some things, to do with the roof. And you can turn because the energy you're going to get, right? Feelings of these emotions like anger or feeling sad, in a lot of circumstances, you can learn to harness that and switch it right back around. Because let's say, I use martial arts again as an example, even self-defense, like you get scared, your blood's starting to run from your stomach. And it's such a similar emotion of feeling so like high energy. It's such a similar emotion. And if you can learn to move and learn to harness it, you can now turn that energy around and use it for you rather than against you. So used against us is now it's become a false emotion because we talk ourselves out of something, or we remind ourselves how unlucky we are and how, why does it always happen to me, and how bad things are. So now it is a false emotion. If that's what we're communicating to ourselves, it is, in my opinion, is 110% become a false emotion. Are those things there? Yes, but we can control now how we're going to really feel about that. And it takes and sometimes, it's not like a lifelong study. It's just making a choice that, I'm not settling for this anymore. And then surrounding yourselves with more of that and making sure you've got the right people that are supporting you and able to drive you forward. But they are not responsible for that. Only you are. And only you are responsible for going forward. So, sometimes, when instead of talking yourself out of something or feeling that you're no good for it, then consider something different. How about you just take one step forward? And it's a trick I use, especially with kids, because sometimes kids will see something. If I use martial arts again, example, like it's a bit of a hobby. They can't get a head around it. If the schools are closed or something, and they're coming to learn something. So, and even adults. Well, all we got to do is get to the next grade then. Let's try and get to the next grade. Don't focus on, this big goal of black belt just yet. Let's just get to the next step. Let's do a couple of weeks. And more often than not, you find out it's nothing related to that situation at all. So often it's other things going on that we start to use as an excuse for us not to do the one thing that is really going to drive us forward. I see it so much. We start making up these other things, and that's the reason why I won't do it now, because I really need to dig a hole in my garden and put a plant in there. So there's no way I could possibly write a book today. And it sounds daft, but our brain doesn't want the uncomfortable feeling of doing something that's going to change us for the better or move us forward. So just consider one step forward today. And instead of finding all those reasons of why it's not going to work and totally talking yourself out of it, or how it's going to go wrong, or how much of a workload we got on at the moment, or consider something what would happen if it does work out? What's going to happen once you are finished on this project? What's going to happen if you did get what you wanted? What then? Rather than the what if, what go wrong, find what will go right and start thinking about that. Otherwise, again, sometimes you can't control certain things on that journey. And that's really when the fear kicks in, and it consumes us and it takes control. And then we have lost control, because again, that emotion of it appears real when it's not. Because if you switch it round, learn to switch and harness it and take it as an energy to move forward instead of freezing up and holding back. Well, now we're on a totally different path, and you can flip it around. You can train it to become like a switch. That's why things like martial arts are great, or dance, all these things. You can learn to turn that feeling of a bit nervous, a bit and like a switch. But it's one of them things you got to keep training. All right. So again, there's nothing wrong with offloading, and I think that's quite an important thing. And I think once you've kind of had a little bit of it's being careful with it. See, how I did it was I was just annoyed. But hopefully, again, if your brain is, what you don't want to do is if you're offloading something and just saying it out, I won't be able to do it because this doing that. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes a problem when you start to listen to it. Sometimes that can be useful just for us to think, oh, so stupid. What do I mean? Why am I putting myself out from this? So if you have got to offload, take that pause afterwards. You know, if it's like a negative that's like bringing you down, and have a pause afterwards and consider, like, what are the facts? Okay, what are the facts that are going to help improve us? If that makes sense, all right. But from my point of view, so I like to have generally I wouldn't rant on, say, how I did earlier in the week, about the situation. But I felt for so many people in that situation. I think some people thought I was deflated. No, that's not the case. I was just quite annoyed and cross. But what that allowed me to do was, right, that's out of the system. And now, because that's an emotion, right? And it's an emotion, if I didn't release it somehow, some way, I could have done it close. But it would have just stayed there. So that would have held me back, all right? So something like that, a bit angry, yes, get it out, rant it out, vent it out, but only so, and in a controlled environment, I would recommend, but only so you can now take that step forward. See, what that did was clear my head up. Okay, it was a couple of days, where there's a couple of things just annoying me about this whole, can we open, whatever. But each time it was done, I was able to take that step forward. It was gone. Now I can focus. Now that frustration, right, we're doing this, we're doing that. Between my staff, we're constantly messaging each other. Let's try this idea. So our brains are tuned to be able to step forward. And if some sort of weird fear generally does kick in, we don't slap each other, but we kind of, kick each other out of it. So it's important to have a good support network around you that can do that. And not everyone can. It doesn't mean you got drop people away. It's just being aware of it. So plan for what will go right. All right. Very often, yes, the plan is going to change. So rather than letting that emotion become something that's going to hold you back, then plan for how to move forward. All right. And it will change. This year has changed so much, right? So this year, a huge example of the beginning of the year, how I thought something was going to be, and then we're going to have a lockdown, we're not going to have a lockdown, let's adapt it to this. Changed so much within like days sometimes. I mean, literally, right, no, that's not the plan. But when that keeps happening, it's almost like something keeps trying to knock. See, if I thought of it, these things keep knocking me, they keep knocking me. I'm just getting a bit punched, that's all. A few punches and that's it. It was just life hits, whatever. But just change the plan. Simple. And like I said, use that energy, offload if you got to. Right, this is annoying. Like the plans this year, I think has changed nearly every week, it feels sometimes. But that's all it took. Just have that plan. All right, I'm going to move forward. Okay, this doesn't work. Right, I'll go forward there. But don't allow those other fears, and especially fears of others, okay? Which I'll come on to in a sec. Try so hard not to allow them to get in your head. And because it is quite apparent on social media at the moment, like I'm all for helping people, but only, if they're prepared to help themselves as well. And I give lots of chances, so it's all good. So the energy you feel doesn't need to be overwhelming, all right? And I'm sure we've all said it. So we don't need to communicate to ourselves, I'm just so overwhelmed at the moment. Because it's almost like by saying it, it could probably quite possibly put more pressure upon yourselves to feel more overwhelmed, I guess. So when it's like lots going on, it's just take a pause, all right? Doesn't mean you have to stop everything. I mean, you have to stop that big project that you've been itching to work on, and don't use the other everyday life things as the excuse to not take that step forward. Because tomorrow there'll be another excuse, all right? Tomorrow there'll be some other reason why you're not going to do it. And again, I've done it, we've all done it, but just crack on, all right? Just start on this, whatever it is. Don't start looking for other things, or I got to do it tomorrow. As Tony Robbins used to say, someday I'll do this, and someday I'll do that. And you never ever get to that island called someday I'll. All right, there you go. So use when you're feeling overwhelmed, try and use that feeling to, first you got to pause, right? Take a breath, then move, but use it to empower you. So I guess this week, I was overwhelmed with different emotions, with the whole roof leaking and then the news and all sorts of things, but not in a way where it was going to hold me back. Not in a way where I was going to just feel like so miserable. No, it's like I step forward, say what I got to say, and that's it. I pick up. And in fact, it was nice. I had a message of one of our clients and how they noted that. And I wasn't doing it for that stuff. I probably wouldn't have said anything. I thought I was going to get a little messages saying, oh man, it's so... But maybe I got to get over that, right? So that's our own fears. Breathe, move forward, use it to empower you, use it to take you forward, to take that next step. So now, what about everyone else's emotions, right? So I would say around us, especially again at the moment, there's so many fears. Everyone is going for their own private, personal battles at the moment. There's people worried about their jobs, worried about business, maybe worried about their own loved ones, and some maybe just be overwhelmed because they have been working, maybe NHS staff, for example, right? So everyone's got an opinion at the moment, and our feeling is very much based upon their own view of life and their own experiences. And obviously speaking to a few, maybe like this has spilled over a little bit into their own feelings, and it can almost like, in some sense, maybe feeling a little bit more alone, or feeling like arguments maybe flaring up. So something like this I know is going to cover quite a few different things. But if it's someone's feelings, I guess that's what they're expressing, right? So if you're the one that's listening to something, or someone's kind of having that rant, I think at the moment, some people, it might be that we're or are we, maybe you help me out, are we taking time to listen to just whatever it is they got to say? Because we're feeling, if we're feeling our own anxieties, can make it very difficult to listen to what someone else is saying, especially at the moment. So we don't always agree with what someone is being said, but I feel kind of it's time to listen. There's so much has been on in what's happened over the last month. The Black Lives Matter, and the whole argument has come up on different things there. I just feel that again, we got these emotions that real being tested this year, tested to the max. But if one thing that I hope we could learn from this whole experience, everything that's going on, is to listen a little bit more, or a lot more. How about that? A lot more. Sometimes, if someone's having their own rant, let them just get it out. Let them get it out of their system. But often we just want to jump in, come in with an opinion, and they probably haven't even finished yet. And our opinion's based on our own experience or something else, which can be useful. I know that, right? It can be useful. But that's not always maybe what they needed. So best advice for that, dealing with other people's fears, other people's emotions, is all you can do is offer support for them to move forward. And then they've got a choice. And I know this covers such a big thing, but if you're offering support for someone, then support them, listen, and then it's up to them. It's their choice what they do with that yet. After that, you don't have to be annoyed about it. You don't have to try and convince people out of things. Convince them to move forward. And that personally for me is how we should all. It'd be nice if we all live that, right? The rising tide raises all ships. But likewise, if it's the other way around, if you aren't feeling supported, it's time to move on. If you don't feel supported by someone, that's not their fault. It's not your fault either. But you both got, you've got that responsibility. Maybe they got their own thing going on, or simply they're just not the right person to be supportive of you. Because if you're dealing with your own fears and anxieties at the moment, and you don't feel supported, it's just time to move on. You don't have to drop them. They're just not the one that's going to support you on whatever that is. And not everyone around you can support you in the way you would like. So let's say for my business, I have people that understand it and they support me one way. I have people who won't understand it, but they support. But maybe they can't always fully understand everything. Of course, if someone's bringing you down, then all right, then we got a choice that we can make. So, like I said, other people's fears do cover a big area. All right, we can get into all sorts of talks about narcissism and things like that. But like I said, I feel we always have a choice. And if they're too consumed in their own fears, then you have to be very much aware of how that can start to affect you. So I've been around people where they're just so consumed in their own fears and for too long, okay? Because it takes time to move away from something. It takes time to take that next step. It takes time to heal, all these kind of things. But some people just, it can become quite much a part of them in a way that's dragged down type of thing, yes? So in extreme situations, it can end up controlling very much of what you do or say or think. So let's say maybe this is a fear in a relationship. Other people's, going into relationships where someone's got overwhelmed with fears. Be careful that doesn't overwhelm you, and be careful that you doesn't end up controlling how much of what you want to do, say or think. But you always got a choice. Everyone got a choice on stuff. So let me know what you think, okay? Because I've covered a few different areas. How do you feel about false emotions? How do you feel about the emotions that are around at the moment? How do you deal with it? Do you need help with that? I think we all do from time to time. How's things affected you? All right. And just to recap, is like when you feel it, take a breath, pause, have a rant if you need to. All right. But use those emotions now to drive you forward, not hold back. Stand up for what you believe in, definitely, yes, all right? But don't let it consume you. Like this week, like I said, I got annoyed about the decision. As much as I understand about the virus, for me, I'm not happy about the thought process, and that's that. Now I got to move on from it. But as an example, I don't want it to consume me. I don't want that to be the only thing I'm just going to bang on about. There might be something tomorrow that's, same thing, causing me to, what, now? It was the borders yesterday. Come on, give me a break, man. Let's get this country back. But I can't let it consume me, because I'll just be going around miserable. I'm going to become bitter. I'm going to become angry. It's going to affect those other people around me, if that makes sense. So yes, stand up for what you believe in, but you got a choice, right? Don't let it consume you. I gotta stay focused. So if I stay there too long, I just totally lose my focus. Of course, like I said, I had that rant because it just affected so many people. It wasn't so much about my business. It's a lot about my clients that really need like martial arts or the fitness just for their own mental health well-being. Really worried, I'm talking to other sectors like education. There's a big fear for mental health at the moment, and again, this is going to play on it. These emotions that we're feeling are going to start to play on it. So be mindful of others' emotions, of course. Sometimes they just got to release them out. If you disagree, okay, fine. But maybe kind of just bite that a little bit, as long as it's not affecting you too much. It's quite difficult at the moment, I agree though. Better to wait till they have, someone's calmed down, and you got a choice anyway, especially on social media. We got a choice. Are you okay? Is everyone okay? Maybe that's what we need a bit more at the moment. But don't let your fears define you, and definitely don't allow other people's fears to define you. Don't let, if it is difficult, but it kind of is like they get in a little bit because it's around us all the time. You hear other people saying, I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment. Oh, okay, yeah. And it's like something's just been put in your head, so that later on when you got a few tasks to do, we want to say the same thing subconsciously, and it ends up coming out. And now we told ourselves that. So, like I said, mental health taking a big hit. Just move, okay? Release it. Get a coach for mind and body, and invest in yourself basically, and commit to sticking with it. They're only false emotions if they hold you back. So it's only a false emotion if it holds you back. and it's our fears. So false emotions appearing real, it's just fear, basically. If we're honest with ourselves about it, but that's the first step, is understanding when it's happening, what it's doing, why is that happening, why am I feeling this, and then turn that around into energy that can totally drive you forward, and just go and do that thing. The plan will change. That's okay. Just change it again. Change it until you get exactly what you want, and keep checking and keep reviewing it, of course. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. All right, for another episode. And of course, drop some comments in below. I'll try and answer them later on. But just interesting debate. I'd love to hear what you feel about, how emotions are, where your emotions are, but to talk yourself into, you know what, let's get fired up. Let's use this as my fuel to go and that's it. I'm just gonna take the life and grab it and feel great about myself, and not. It's not like don't disguise it. It's not like hiding it. It just use it. Use it for your. Turn it into a positive. So, and just be determined. Like I say in the class, be determined. Come on, be relentless. Get this next round out. Let's see how many we can get in the next 30 seconds. How many repetitions we can get out, for a combo that they're working. And mind is getting conditioned with it. And it doesn't have to be that, right? It could be anything. But you can condition your mind. And it doesn't have to start tomorrow or next week. It can just right now. Get up, do something, move, jump. But don't allow these other negative emotions to get in for too long. Release them out. Have a little laugh about it if you got to. And then take that next step forward. All right, guys. Peace, love, good health. Bye-bye.